Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about kind of opening up bank accounts, creating LLCs, and business funding kind of all around. Gino has been telling a lot of people about, how to make more money and get more funding. And then now we kind of just want to talk about like the basics or like how to start an LLC, how to start getting business funding. Is it like how to get funding fast, or is it just like how to start building relationships with banks to get continuous funding? Which do you think it is?
I would say it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
First, you want to make sure you get some money, some quick funding that
Yeah.
for your existing business or a new business that you're starting, just to get access to that would be great. That way, you have a little bit of cushion, and then at the same time, just to help your day-to-day, expenses in general. But I would say the biggest thing is being able to build relationships, right? And then having those relationships kind of like grow into those ferocious lines of credit or loans that you can get from the bank. So the main thing
Cool.
you have to realize is the relationship you have with the bank, it's going to matter long term. So
Right.
don't screw up the relationship by being late on a payment, by having some kind of misunderstanding with the banks, or even like having an account go stale. Like not using an account is also not good. You want to keep those accounts active, and you want to make sure that you're constantly spending money and then paying them off, as well as if it's a credit card or using a bank account. You always want to have good relationships, and having bank accounts at these banks, credit unions, and other tier one, tier two banks like Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, all these banks. You need to have an account with them, and it's good to have one and have some money in there because it
Yeah.
allows you to build that relationship.
But it should be a business account, right? Not like a personal account.
Yes. So, but most of the time, some banks they may require you to have a personal then a business. They might
Mm,
require that. But sometimes you can just go straight business. I've
yeah.
had most of my business accounts. I have a personal account with the same bank as well.
Yeah.
So just that way, it's just you can kind of move money around. If you pay
Hmm.
yourself, for example, you can pay yourself at the same bank if you want to. Some people like to pay themselves. To a specific bank, and then from a different bank. That's also a way you can do it. I always
Yeah.
I always like to use the same bank because the money shows up faster. You don't have to wait a day or two. You can literally transfer money from the same bank to one account to another within the same bank, and you can go and pick up your money tomorrow from your personal account.
Yeah. And like, so like, should it just be big banks or should it be like your little local kind of be bullshit banks? Like just start opening. Like, do you think all banks can have some opportunity?
Absolutely. I mean, the biggest
Yeah.
banks have the most money, right? So you want to
Right.
make sure you get access to the most money possible right away. And the big banks are the ones that are going to get you that quick, fast funding.
Oh,
Chase,
cool.
Wells Fargo, for example, like Bank of America, these higher end banks, just tier one banks are the ones that are going to get that, original, contracts for you. That way you can get your first credit card, things like that. But then if you want to grow relationships long term and better rates, I would say would be the credit unions, the local banks that you have that are nearby, the U.S. banks, for example. Those banks are like, are now U.S. Bank is tier one, but those banks that are like kind of like locally situated, for example, Alliant, you have Navy Federal, you have PenFed. These are the banks that you want to make sure you can build relationships with, which I have, and I have, like for Alliant, I have over a $25,000 credit card, only because I had money in the account. If you apply for a line, you're not going to get a $25,000 credit card off the bat.
Right.
They might give you a five or 10 if you're lucky. So you
Hmm.
have to have a good good credit, good credibility, and good relationships. So and by
Yeah.
building the way you build relationships is literally saying, hey, Mr. Bank, here is some money that I have, and I'm willing to put it in your bank, and I trust you that you're gonna keep my money in good hands. And then whenever I need my money, I'm gonna be able to take that money out. But in this case, why don't you hold my money and just give me a line of credit? And that's
Cool.
what's called another version that we're going to get into, which is called leveraging your own money. So you
Yeah.
can leverage your own money by giving the bank your money and then accessing credit lines based on the amount of money, if not more than what you put into the bank.
Wow. And then, I mean, this is kind of like taking one step back to go a few
Yeah.
steps forward, but like we were kind of talking about how business credit is kind of bullshit, right? Because it is all based on your personal, right? But then you're saying we should also build these business entities up. Is it, and that's kind of like a long term game to start getting credit, or is it like, is it the main way to go about it? Because I know it's all based on your personal credit. So why are we making these business accounts? What's the advantages, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
The biggest advantage of having business credit accounts, if you're gonna apply for credit, is the fact that certain banks don't report to your personal credit
Right.
report.
We
So
should find
other
those.
than other than Capital One and Citibank, those two banks report. The ones
Mm,
like, for example, American Express, some of these other banks, even U.S. Bank, I believe, they don't report directly to your actual credit report. So that way you can leverage that business credit, you can leverage that money that's already there, and it won't report. Even if you use up the entire credit line, you invested that money, right? Whatever that is, that credit line, as long as it's active, is being paid for, there's no collections. You're not just using the credit and then not paying for it. Yeah, there's interest obviously in some cards, like for example, business credit, start with zero interest, right? They usually for 15, 18 to 24 months. So those are the terms that you can get with business credit. That's why it's zero interest up to 24 months. So then once you have that, then you can leverage that, right? But if you can't pay it off within 15 months, if you can't pay it off within 18 months or 24 months, it's fine. Don't kill yourself. Obviously, there's interest, but at least you now have access to money or
yeah.
leverage money that you didn't have before, right?
And then you should do it all in your business names, right? You should get like business credit cards, business debit
Yes.
cards, and then you should just kind of like keep track of those kind of like bank accounts and do
Yeah.
do yeah,
Some
so you
people
can.
ask how many credit cards, how many like businesses should I have? Like, should I have one business? Should I have five businesses? Right. So I think, once you get one established business in a good standing and you're able to leverage that business and have a credit business or credit cards for that business or credit lines for that business,
Yeah, that's cool.
like I have a $75,000 blue vine credit line with my business, for example, one of my businesses, Marvel Management. Now, other
Cool.
businesses, for example, Marvel Solutions, also has credit lines or credit availability for those cards. And those were other businesses that I created in order to access even more money. So now, like, I have one business that's already established. So what you do is you open up multiple LLCs and be able to access multiple lines of credit instead of having, let's say, 5, 10, 15, $20,000 for one business that you would apply from the same bank. You can apply to three businesses from the same bank and get maybe 5, 10 on each line from the business. So now you're, instead
Wow.
of like 5,000 or 10,000, you can get up to 30, 40, $50,000 worth of business credit for that specific business and individually separated based on LLC. So I would recommend opening up initially 1 to 3 LLCs, one to start off, to have your own as your kind of like your holding account. You can call it, Robin Leon Holdings, for example.
Yeah.
Use that as a holding account, and then you open up multiple businesses, other business entities that you can also apply from the same bank that you're actually using for your holding account, and also build relationships. Once you have some money coming in, when you invest your money, you can use that money, put that money back into the bank, and leverage it. It's a
Yeah.
system, my friend.
You
It's all
blew
you
my
got to
mind.
do.
Yeah.
You just got to use the system. You just got to know how to move the money. Money must move. It's got to keep moving. If the
Yeah, it's
money
gotta
stays in the bank,
flow.
that's when my money is in the bank, I start getting worried. I'm like,
Yeah.
what is my money doing in the bank right now? I
Right.
was
No, then
for me, it's like usually before it was like I have 10,000, I gotta use it, and it was like I have 20,000, I gotta use it. Oh, I got 40,000, I gotta use it. And now I'm like, oh, I got 100,000. I gotta use it.
yeah.
Like, and then what am I gonna do with the 100,000? I'm gonna buy a house. I'm gonna buy an investment, right? So,
Yeah.
but the leveraging aspect, being able to open up multiple LLCs and access multiple lines of credit or credit cards, is where the game is at. You want to be able to play the game right, and that requires you to have access to multiple lines of credit, potentially multiple businesses, which is the fastest way to get lines of credit, and it's very simple to do. Anybody can do it as long as you have decent credit, 680 and above. I would say if you can be at 700, 740s, better. Help us, and I'll help you by getting your credit fixed. And on top of that, getting your trade lines if you have your credibility right. Get your
Mhm.
trade lines if you don't have your credibility right. And then finally, get access to the money and get funded. And now it's all about leverage, right? So that's what we want to talk about, I think, here today.
So this is cool. I mean, any other thoughts on like opening up LLCs and opening up bank accounts? I mean, what you said was pretty powerful and it kind of like blew my mind. Is it good? Like you're not going to get a ton of credit for your business right away. I mean, I guess I have seen people running ads that say like, hey, start an LLC and get funding in like 7 days, but that's just
Yeah.
because your personal credit's good. And it's like they're just basically going off that, right?
Yeah, based on your personal credit, if your personal credit is good and you have good credibility and you have assets. Remember, banks look at like what you have. Like you can have great credit and have like a bunch of credit cards or a bunch of like banks, let's say. But if you don't have like assets, like they look at if you have real estate. They look at
Right.
if you have cars, like if you own a car,
Mm.
like if you have a lease, right? If you're paying payments, they look at everything. But if you're applying for credit cards, they just look at inquiries and they look at, if you have any derogatories and make sure you don't have any negative derogatories, you don't have late payments, right? Late payments can kill you. One late payment can kill you. That can be a reason why you don't get approved, right? It's just
Oh
one
wow.
simple thing. Yeah, it's very, very critical because they don't like, they don't want to, it's like I don't want to, like, if I give you money, like, I want you to pay me back my money, right? It's like, well, I give you money, I need you to pay me back on time every time. So it's like, if
Yeah.
you do that, then your credibility, kind of goes down. So you want to make sure it's really, if you ever heard the word be a man of your word, it's like,
Yeah.
well, be a man of your business war.
Right. Right. Right.
Keep your
Make your
business,
business.
yeah, make your business that kind of, system where it's not like put it on automatic payments. All my payments are
Mhm.
automatic. Like if I
Yeah.
have payments that are coming through, I always go on my credit cards and I select automatic payments because for the minimum payment at least that way if I forget to make a payment, whatever, at least I know my credit cards are going to get the minimum payment paid. So I don't get late fees. I don't get a late report. Those are very critical. So I would say that's another way to make sure you build credibility. But leveraging and opening up multiple LLCs is what's going to really change the game for a lot of people because they don't even have a business. So if you have a business, great. Open up another one.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you got one, open up another one. If you got one and you got, if you didn't get access, if you have a business and you haven't gotten access to, credit cards, business credit cards, okay, not personal,
Hmm.
business credit cards and business lines of credit or business loans, you are not doing it right. And on
Yeah.
top of that, that has to be done on business number one. Business
Yeah.
number two, rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Business number three, rinse and repeat. It's like,
Wow. You can start
I
to
mean,
stack. Yeah.
then you start stacking. We can, I have officially I have 5 businesses right now. I'm looking to grow that to 15, you
Yeah.
know. And the reason I'm gonna do that is because I just want to have more money.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I have enough money, but like now, like that I don't I even though I have money, I have 100, 150, 200, 300 in my bank. I don't want to touch that money to invest in other assets if I don't have to, right? I want to use that money for more, essential assets that are like, things I can actually enjoy. For example, if I want to buy a house for my family, I can put that money into a new property that I can move into. If I want to invest in real estate, I can also do that, but I was still going to use my other people's money. I'm not going to use my money.
Right. And then like if you create an LLC and you create a good relationship with the bank, you think when you sell the business, it's just the LLC, right? But if the business has a good standing with certain banks, like that could be an added value for when you sell these LLCs, right? Like I'm thinking like
Absolutely.
I want to stack a bunch of LLCs, age them a little bit, have them have some sort of little business attached to them, and then sell them for more money than what I put into it.
Yes, so the biggest power that the power with business and apply and having businesses and being able to leverage their credit and credibility. Once you start, there's they're called bookshelf businesses that you can actually buy, right?
Cool.
People have bought businesses, do exactly what you said. They
Hmm.
buy it, they get some credit lines, they build the credibility of the business, and then they say, okay, the business has been aged for like let's say 3 years. Now I can sell this business. It cost me what $800 every year to in California. It's $800 to have an LLC to pay every year just to keep it open, right?
Yeah.
You would pay $800 every year to keep it open. You have lines of credit, but you still have to have activity and make sure it's nice and clean, right? There's no like payments, late payments, or any of that. Then you can go off and sell that business, for 5, 6, 7, 8, $10,000. You can sell it and flip it and sell it basically, but it takes 3 years. I would say for 2 to 3 years, like if anybody wants to come buy a business from you, they're not going to buy it from you if it's a year old. They're not going to buy it from you if it's
Right.
2 years. They're going to want at least 3 years of like, good credit history reporting. And that way they can take the business as a bookshelf and then go get funding. So now they're going to get way more funding than the new business because that business is aged.
Cool.
And it also has activity, right? And activity and credibility that's already been built on it. So yes, having multiple businesses, building credibility for those businesses, aging the businesses, uh, absolutely. Even if you don't do anything with the business, at least open it, open it,
Yeah.
let it age, let it use it. Things that you might use for yourself, write it off as a business expense.
Right.
Was it Office Depot and you buy a bunch of paper, you buy a printer, you buy your ink, whatever you spend on your day to day, you know, do that. You use that business. Have another business to fill up gas all day. I don't care. Whatever it
Yeah.
is. At the end of the day, have a business to do that. Like if you say you travel to your properties,
Hmm.
that can be, to go look at properties, or let's say you're, you can say it's a management company, right? You can expense gas on a business credit card whenever you file taxes for that business. So
Yeah.
you can expense gas, cars. You're basically nothing should be on your name. Everything should be on a business. Like me now, I'm in the process of doing that for myself. I'm in the process of taking everything off my name, putting everything in a trust eventually, and then also having everything that's being purchased going forward, including cars, including gas, including my even my groceries. Whatever I'm buying it on business.
Yeah. It's awesome. And then like you create the trust, and then you have the trusts underneath, or the businesses connected to the trust. Is that how you think how you're going to structure
Yeah,
it, or
I'm
is
gonna
there like a whole
structure it that
thing?
way. Yep, that's what I was talking to my trust guy a couple of days ago. Structure everything on the business side. That way, all my businesses are under like one umbrella almost, and you have one umbrella, which is your top holding account. In this case, for me, it's Marble Management, but other companies, that you may call whatever. You can open up a business under just your name, like Robert Leon. You can say Robert
Yeah.
Leon Incorporated,
Yeah.
right? I'm thinking about doing that now. Yeah, my name. I got to incorporate my name now. So it's like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, yeah, those are things that you can create for yourself. And then, yeah, own your name. You
Right.
deserve to own your name, right? But own it as a business.
Yeah.
Own
And
it,
it's
own your name as a business. So that's powerful. And that's something that, I thought about, for a while. And I'm like, well, the first business I should have is
That's
my
real
name.
powerful, actually, because then I could write books. You could do all kinds of publishing shit.
Yeah,
You could
your
do public
name.
speaking. You
But
pay to that
exactly.
business. That's
Yo,
fucking
you
cool.
are the business. Own
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
business. Own your name.
I mean, I've always done that, but I've never had the official like trust or
Me
the
neither.
LLC. So
Me
that's
neither.
the way to do
I've
it.
used so also other things you can do is like instead of using your social security number for things that like utility bills and things like that, you give
Yeah.
the EIN number, right? So instead of
Mm.
you to say there was they're both the same digits. At the end of the day, you can give an EIN or you can give a social. So
Right.
if you can give an EIN, I wish I gave my EIN before, because I've had identity theft happen to me. So I'm like, damn, I should have used my EIN, and then that
Right.
way I never have an identity issue. So it protects
Oh,
you.
that's kind
Okay,
of cool. Yeah,
it
that's the whole thing. It
protects you.
is.
Yeah, it's a protective mechanism. So there's a lot of things that
It protects you, and then also you can create its own entity and start getting its own credit eventually, which is I
and
think the
funding.
coolest fucking thing. That's the
Yeah.
coolest shit ever.
It's
That's
basically
insane.
like credit is like your social security number associated, and there's a number associated to your EIN. So
Yeah.
your social security has a credit number, right? Your credit report, your personal, but then you
Mhm.
have your EINs or your LLCs that have multiple have their own credits, I should say. They have their own credit based on your credit. Your credit kind of feeds into this it basically leverage your credit is leveraged
Right.
for business. Your business is leveraging your credit to do business. And
Yeah.
then once it grows and it starts to establish its own entity, but first it's a hand, then it becomes a rock. Once it becomes a rock, then it doesn't need your business anymore. It can stand on its own. And
Yeah.
that's the power of business credit and business leverage, is the fact that you can build a business, essentially create another person. In this case, a business is basically another person, another entity. Your social security is an entity. Okay,
Yeah.
it's not your name is an entity. That's why
Mhm.
they write it all caps. It's an
Yeah.
entity. For the government, you're considered like an employee. You work for the government.
No,
All you
that's
do
good.
is, well, yeah,
Yeah.
you go to work, you pay your
Yep.
taxes, right? You pay taxes again. And then when you go buy stuff, you pay taxes again. And then when
Yeah.
you die, you pay taxes again. So
Yeah, exactly.
how do you
We're an
avoid
employee for the
taxes, tax,
US.
tax, tax, tax? That's something we'll talk about in another course.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a whole. How do you avoid all taxes altogether? And that's all. Like tax is a whole nother topic we can discuss.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
in this case, businesses also opening up multiple businesses, being able to leverage those businesses and entities, having replicate yourself, having like
Yeah.
30 versions of yourself. Imagine if I had 30 versions of myself, I would have been a trillionaire. So I'm like, man, I should have had like more versions of myself. It's also like because you're doing it alone, you have to be able to manage the time and be able to grow these businesses. You don't want to open up an LLC and just leave it alone. You want to actually open it, do something with it.
Yeah,
And
have
I
it
can
built.
manage 5 businesses at a time, and it's hard. It's not easy, but nobody's
Yeah.
going to say it's hard. Nobody's going to say it's easy. It's hard to manage a business, hard to be able to do that, but you
Mhm.
need to do it. And that's what's going to give you that ability to kind of spread your wings and access money that you didn't have and start leveraging that money that is not your money. Technically, it's considered other people's money.
That's where leverage comes in, which is pretty much what we're going to
Absolutely.
talk about in the next one. That was fire, man. So this was cool. I mean, just like to summarize, it's like you're just getting everything organized. You're getting your whole business organized with its own LLC, its own bank accounts, its own income and expenses and stuff like that. And it becomes its own thing so that it can get its own funding, which is so
Exactly.
powerful.
And it
That's
has its
crazy.
own business. It has its own business banking. It has its
Cash
own
flow.
it
Yeah.
has its own IR. It has taxes. You start filing taxes. You start creating it.
Yeah.
You start creating almost like another person. It's
Yeah. That's
basically
crazy to
another
think about.
person. That's what it is. It's just
Your little
everything a
business, baby.
person can have. The only difference between a person and a business. The only difference between a person and a business is that you have a beating heart
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're a human being and you die.
Yeah.
Businesses technically don't die.
Right. That's
Businesses
wild.
don't die. Humans die.
Yeah.
So your social security dies. You don't use
Right.
your social security when you die. It's no longer
Right.
used, although we know it's been used in many ways in the wrong ways. But at the end of the day, social security is when you die, your social security should not be used again, right? So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, but your entity, like my business, Marvel Management, Marvel Solutions, Marvel Pharmacy, all these businesses that we own, these businesses are not going to be used
Yeah.
unless it's and they're not going to die because they're going to be passed on to my generation, and those
Yeah.
businesses
It
are going to
becomes your
become.
legacy, man.
Yeah,
Right.
it
That's
becomes,
that's
and
what
they
it
just
is.
live on, right? They live on,
Yeah.
and they all get fed back into the trust, which is something we're going to discuss, how to structure your overall like family bank, and then how to structure your family trust, and also how to leverage your credit at the same time as being able to put everything back into one bucket, which is it all goes back to the trust. So that's
Yeah.
something I'm currently doing, and I'm planning on sharing with everybody. So.
That's powerful. All right. Let's wrap this one up, man. That was cool.